Burkina Faso has reported that it intercepted yet another coup attempt in the early hours of January 3rd, with defence and security forces acting on intelligence to arrest suspects before anything even unfolded. By the next morning, supporters were already outside the presidential palace chanting support for Captain Ibrahim Traore. And whilst that part is confirmed, there's still a big question as to who was actually behind it, right? I mean, the story is still unfolding, details remain opaque, and there's very little publicly verified information. But I'm not going to lie, it's hard for our thoughts not to leap directly to France. Of course, I know that there are others who will argue that this isn't about foreign intervention at all. They'll point to the years of insurgency, deep instability, and the transition friction that naturally comes when leadership changes, with security forces, local communities, traditional power brokers, and economic actors all adjusting at once. And as in most developing countries, that mess is felt most by citizens that are living through it, right? Some people can be patient and others can't, right? Especially when hunger is much louder than hope, right? But many of us feel that there's a bigger conversation here because since Traore took power, Burkina Faso has moved sharply away from Western influence, and that inevitably creates winners and losers. Now, let's talk about the economic layer, right? Burkina Faso is a gold economy, with gold making up over 80% of its exports. The government has tightened its grip, lifting the state's free stake to 15%, building a state vehicle called SOPAMIB, I think it's called, and moving mining assets into public hands, whilst also collecting over 11 tons of gold to build a national reserve. But the country is also juggling debt repayments, tight budgets, and the cost of fighting insurgency, which means that there is very little room for error. Here's the risk that I think people often underestimate, right? Even rumours of instability can trigger capital flight. Capital flight is when money leaves the country or doesn't arrive at all, right? Mining projects get delayed, local firms struggle to raise funding, governments lose negotiating power, and asset values quietly slip. Burkina Faso still operates within the CFA franc system for now, at least, right? So any push for greater economic sovereignty has to be balanced against financial stability. And if Burkina Faso really succeeds, the influence it will have across West Africa will be magnanimous, right? And that is why this story isn't just about one country. It's about the precedent it sets for the entire region. Because while the privileged argue about sovereignty and contracts, ordinary families are still living with the reality of curfews, closed doors, and rising food prices. And there's a real human cost to that. So the big question isn't just who tried to take control, it's how Burkina Faso protects its economic leverage when pressure shows up quietly through money rather than just headlines. Anyway, let's talk in the comment section. What are your thoughts? Who do you think it was?